16. Mr. Sprinkled will give us an overview. Then we will start going through the analysis of this. We hope to get through to at least page 6, if not maybe a little further. Our goal is to have a council meeting next Friday. Councilmember Hussein, can you do a 2, or do you want us to leave it at 3:30?
I can do it.
Okay. We will be having a council meeting next Friday at 2 p.m. To continue going over this draft, so that you're aware of that as we go through this. Mr. Smirka.
Excuse me. If I come next week, will I be allowed to speak next week?
You'll be allowed to speak at the end when Mr. Smirka is done giving his explanation in council. You always have an opportunity.
Next week also?
Next week also. Right. You will always have an opportunity for public comment. We just believe that it might be more beneficial for you to hear some of the explanations before you make public comment, because it might answer some of your questions. Again, it might give you additional questions that you have after hearing some of the concerns.
That's 3:30 next Friday?
2 next Friday.
2 o'clock next Friday?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the ordinance you have in front of you, first of all, is not for neighborhoods. We are still working on empirical data to develop something here in the near future that will address any issues on neighborhoods. And we received many complaints from neighborhoods. We've set up a process to deal with those complaints individually. But an ordinance will be coming shortly for neighborhoods after we develop the empirical data that we're trying to develop. So in putting this together, there have been hours and hours of discussion, debate, review of cases, review of minutes of this committee, newspaper articles, the statutes, and you name it, and putting together, and you can see just on this one day, yesterday, we ran through 4 drafts of this agenda. We've met with the police, we've met with interest groups, we've looked at what has happened in other cities, and what the prosecutor said was absolutely true. The legislature has to deal with this issue, so because cities are suffering and trying to figure out how to operate under it. So this does not deal with neighborhoods again, but it does deal with commercial and industrial districts. And so this is a licensing ordinance. It's not a zoning ordinance, it's a licensing ordinance that requires that there be a license for a facility, or what we call an establishment in the ordinance, to regulate 4 types of facilities: provisioning centers, which were referred to as dispensaries, grower facilities, processing facilities, and safety compliance facilities. So each one of these facilities, and they're all defined in the ordinance, requires a license, and an annual license. We also provide for this other topic you heard a few minutes ago, secure transporter. We've put a placeholder in the ordinance, but we don't have enough information as to how to regulate, or should it be regulated at the local level in the ordinance, but there is a placeholder. So right now the ordinance requires an application for a license for these 4 types of centers. The ordinance also creates a commission. It's a commission of 5 individuals appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the city council. One will be from a neighborhood group, 1 member. 1 would be from a patient advocacy group. 1 would be this is almost an ex officio, director of planning and neighborhood development for the city, and 2 from the general population, from the residents of the city. Ex officio, that is, attending the meetings without a vote, will be the police chief and the fire chief, or their designees. This commission will review applications for licenses under this ordinance. And in the ordinance, you will see is probably 20-some measures or criteria that have to be evaluated by the commission. And once that commission meets and evaluates and decides that a license should be granted, they will issue a certificate of approval that will license the premises where any of these 4 operations are conducted, and that will go to the city clerk that actually issues the license. Currently, the ordinance requires a $5,000 application fee. If the application is denied, then $2,500 of that will be returned. It will also require a $10,000 annual license fee, which is renewable every year. It also, and let me talk about the fees. These are not arbitrary fees. These are fees directly related to the effort that goes into enforcing this ordinance, putting this ordinance on the books, maintaining it, monitoring, all of those efforts. Those fees are used for that purpose. One of the other requirements is there's an importance in an establishment not sort of putting up a tent, but have roots in the community, and so there's a requirement in vetting the business operations of the proposed licensee that there be at least $50,000 in liquid assets and tangible assets, assuring that the applicant is serious in opening a business and has the capital to make it a sound business and not coming in and out of the city. So all of those are in the ordinance. There's the criteria is there, the application process is there. The commission can also propose rules and regulations for further adoption by the city council at some later date. Now, for those businesses that are existing today, they are not grandfathered. And so but in the ordinance, you will find that they have 30 days from the adoption of this ordinance to apply for a license. If they apply for a license, there will be no enforcement action while that license is pending. If the license is denied by the commission, we have 30 days to cease operations or will be in violation of the ordinance, and the ordinance will provide that it is a public nuisance. The ordinance does provide it. So that's how those situations are handled. Now, again, this is not a zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance is in place already that says where, in what districts, medical marijuana establishments can be located. It would be not proper to put that into this ordinance. However, there are distance limitations from churches and schools, things of that nature that are in the ordinance. I believe it was similar to what you've seen before, 1,000 feet. No quotas are established in this ordinance, and there's a very good reason for that. First of all, in dealing with a licensing ordinance for a municipality, you have to be very cautious that it doesn't run afoul of rules called arbitrariness and capriciousness. And when you look at the idea of quota in connection with medical marijuana, the Medical Marijuana Act, and its really broad protection for medical marijuana medical marijuana caregivers and patients, in terms of saying you can't deny a right and privilege. Looking at it all together, it's our judgment of the law department that a quota should not be in this ordinance. Plus, the vetting process that's established in this ordinance has stringent criteria, and so it will only be those that are operating in a safe, sound manner that most likely will be able to get a license under this ordinance. So there's no quota. I think I pretty much covered it all. Mark, you want to jump in if there's something else that I haven't touched on?
You will notice that there are references to processors, compliance facilities, growers, and dispensaries. We're most familiar with dispensaries. Currently now, the act is silent on businesses or entities that might be allowed under the state law. They refer to dispensing from caregivers to qualified patients generally. It really does as silent as to how that dispensing is supposed to take place. All of these entities that we have collectively referred to as establishments have to act consistent with the MMA. We are not authorizing activities that are inconsistent with state law. But what we decide to do is to allow this document to be one that breathes. To the extent that the MMA is amended, this will also amend naturally or consistently with the MMA. So our choice was to either anticipate and be visionary, anticipate that there are going to be certain changes or things that are come down from the MMA and have that reflected in the document, or to draft an ordinance that's going to immediately have to be repealed or modified each time the state decides to make a move. And our decision was to go with the former. Once again, it is consistent, it requires, and it only allows activities that are authorized by the state.